Welcome back to the Rulebook. I'm your host, Alex Palmer, and I'm the queen of learning things the hard way so you don't have to. On this podcast, we're talking about the mistakes I made and the lessons I learned along the way to create the rules I now live by. On each episode, we'll be discussing a new rule, why I created it, how it came about, and how you can apply it in your own life. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the Rulebook, everybody. This is episode number 31. Sit down, be humble. Okay, I was sick for 2 months, and I think you guys all know that because I pretty much mentioned it on every single episode until I got my voice back because I had to. What was I supposed to do? But I finally got back on my Peloton this week, and the instructor played the song Sit Down, Be Humble, or Humble by Kendrick Lamar, and I haven't heard it in so long, and I was like, oh my God, I think this is what I want to talk about on the podcast. But before I get into that, this week in the news was a hectic one, honey. I mean, we had Ocean Gate going down. We had, and just like that, the Sex and the City reboot season 2 premiered on Max. No longer HBO Max, just Max, just Jack. Will and Grace reference. So a lot of shit was going down. My TikTok and my Instagram was like bombarded with, memes and videos about the submersible and all these conspiracy theories, and all for us to find out. Well, I found out when I went to go get a wax at the European Wax Center, and I was talking to my girl on Friday, and I didn't know what else to talk about because when you're there and you have 30 minutes in the room and you're like, we're going to talk about the weather, da-da-da-da. No, we talked about the goddamn submersible. And actually, she taught me a lot. She was like, well, the Navy found out that the submersible had imploded on Sunday. So luckily, it doesn't seem like they suffered too much or what they could have, the suffocation and everything like that. But the Navy held back that information, I guess, one, in case they weren't correct, or two, because they don't actually want other countries to know that we have this technology. Some ish like that, but some whistleblower came out and was like, guess what, guys? We already knew. That was interesting. On TikTok, I saw so many videos making fun of what happened to everybody in the ship, especially making fun of Stockton Rush, I believe that was his name, the guy who was literally controlling the submersible with a freaking PlayStation controller. And a lot of information was coming out about the fact that he had been warned that the submersible could not take the pressure, that these missions were dangerous, and yet he was able to get multiple people to pay him $250,000. I mean, essentially to die. Not to be insensitive, because I personally did not take part in that TikTok trend of making fun of anybody in the submersible or being like, oh, 5 less billionaires in the world. I just think it's pretty tasteless personally. But it really got me thinking about the Albert Einstein quote. I don't even know if it's Albert Einstein's quote. It actually is probably borrowed from somebody else. But we always like to give Albert Einstein credit for things he didn't say. But here we go. The problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubts, while the stupid ones are full of confidence. Okay. I love that quote. I think it's really interesting. Just examples off the top of my head of people who really embody that is like Donald Trump, someone who had no real qualifications in politics, and look how he became the effing president of the United States, okay? And he still has like a wild ass fan base, and he has got the Republican Party in a motherfucking chokehold, honey. George Santos is a really good example of that. I think he's kind of a sociopath with all the lies, but it takes a lot of confidence to do what those people did. And Stockton Rush, he's also a really good example of like, no, I'm not going to let anybody rain on my parade. If I want to go implode, I'm going to go implode, and I'm going to do it, on my own motherfucking time and on everybody else's dime. Whatever. But the whole point about sit down, be humble. Okay, right? I was also wanting to do an episode about negging. And if you don't know what negging is, because I certainly didn't until I joined TikTok, it's a form of manipulation where people give you, usually romantic interest, will give you backhanded compliments to pretty much lower your self-esteem and make you feel inferior so that they have a better chance of, dominating you, or you being more receptive to their sexual advances because you feel so bad about yourself that you're just like, fuck it. If this person likes me, I guess I should give in because, slim pickings over here. It's really fucked up. But negging goes beyond that, because it's not just the opposite sex who does it to us. It's also parents. And, I experienced negging in my comment section all the time. I had another TikTok account before I had my current one. And I ended up making a second account and like abandoning that first account because I made a video about a guy who I was on a date with, and he rated me on a scale of 1 to 10. And he told me I was an 8. And I was just like complaining in the video, but I made it funny because that's what I do. I try to do funny story times. And I got like this plethora of comments of men being like, you're a 2, you're a 1, you're so ugly, you're so dumb. That rhymed. But you know, just a bunch of people coming for me and coming for my looks, because God forbid you have any confidence. God forbid you want the guy that you're dating to say you're a 10. Guys, beauty is obviously very, very subjective. And if the guy you're dating doesn't think you're a 10, I'm sorry, but you're with the wrong dude. I don't care if you're objectively a 10. In his eyes, you should be a 10. And I don't know, I feel like that's the bare minimum. But anyways, it's not just that, because even in videos where people didn't agree with my opinion, they would say, oh, well, I guess you're just a dumb blonde. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sick of people people who don't know me telling me that I'm dumb because I'm blonde or because I look like this, or, you know, I'm over 30. So, how dare I have standards? Like the internet is wild. But anyway, sit down, be humble, right? So fuck that. Rule number 31. You can have too much humble pie and it will make you sick. Okay, maybe it's not my most creative rule, but you know what? I don't care. You're getting the point, right? I feel like as women, we've been forced to consume all this humble pie. Instead of giving us our piece of the pie, they've decided to give us the whole fucking humble pie to sit there and choke on. And I'm sick of choking on spoonfuls of humble pie. You know why? Because when you're too humble, you don't get anywhere. Look at the Stockton Rush guy. He was able to convince billionaires, people who made a lot of money, and I'm sorry, whether you were smart or dumb, you're probably pretty smart if you become a fucking billionaire, to spend $250,000 to sit with him in a submersible that was the size of a freaking tuna can for 3 hours to go see the wreckage of the Titanic through a tiny window, or was it on a screen? I'm no longer sure about the details. But yeah, he was able to convince them to risk their lives to go on this mission with him. And I'm sorry, but if that doesn't show you that maybe you are consuming too much humble pie, then I don't know what will, okay? Because we're constantly not experiencing, but we're constantly being fed these examples of people who are either bamboozling the public and getting away with it because they're just so confident that people can't say no to them. And while that's obviously very dangerous, I do think that, you know, us normal people, there's something to learn here. We can afford to have more confidence. We can afford to push that second slice of humble pie away from us at the dinner table, okay? And I had an episode like this a long time ago. It was one of my 3rd or 4th episodes of this show. And it was about the rule was to have the audacity, have the same, or when you feel like you're being too much, ask yourself, what would a guy with a podcast do? And honestly, this whole Ocean Gate thing is giving very much that. It's giving very much audacity. Right? And most people in their lives will experience imposter syndrome in one form or another, at work, in relationships, at home, whatever. You're probably going to feel it. And you shouldn't. I was watching another TikTok video of this coach. I can't remember who it was. She went to go work at one of these top banks and she was really nervous. And when she went there and she had to evaluate the employees, she was like, I was shocked at how average they were, or even below average they were, because it's all just a bunch of baloney. And the more that we continue to keep ourselves down, because at this point, we don't even need anyone to be negging us. We've internalized it and we're negging ourselves all the time. Oh my God, I'm fat. Oh my God, I'm not good enough. Oh my God, these jeans don't fit. I'm a piece of shit. Okay, maybe that's my internal dialogue, but it doesn't serve us. At the end of the day, it doesn't serve you. I have this thing written in my notes in my iPhone, and it says, what if you did everything with confidence? Because I struggle with a lot of anxiety, and even just going to fucking Dwayne Reed to look for a goddamn SD card, which is what I had to do today because I lost mine to record this show. A SD card is a memory card if you don't know. And I was like, oh, let me just walk up in there and be like, do you guys have SD cards? Sometimes you have bad days, right? Where you're like, I'm a shrinking violet. But stop. No, what would happen if you did everything with confidence? I'm pretty sure that your life would probably start to fucking blossom. Even if it's just like raising the volume when you speak or, throwing some conviction behind your words. These are all just tiny improvements and changes that you can implement day to day to have a better life, to be more effective, to get what you want. And I'm not saying go scam billionaires for $250K and get them in a tuna can with you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Learn that that's not the way. But if he can do that, you could probably get that deal you're after. Or you could probably price yourself at this price for that client. Or you can pick up the phone and make the phone call that you don't want to make because you'd rather it be a text message. Right? But I do feel like women, we've experienced this negging at home, right? Even from parents. Parents or family members who don't want us to do better because if we do better, we'll probably leave, right? We'll go off into the sunset and live our lives. As someone who grew up in a home where I wasn't taught how to write a check, I wasn't taught how to open a bank account, I wasn't taught how to do my taxes. I mean, I don't know. Do other parents teach people this? No. Even filling out my college applications, I was on my own. Okay. My mom, she didn't graduate high school. She'll tell you she did. She didn't. But I was the first person in my family to actually go to college. And my family is sort of in denial about that. And even though they are, that doesn't make it not a fact. But if I had sat there and listened to them, and parts of me obviously did. Parts of me obviously absorbed the negging and the gaslighting. I wouldn't have left my room. But it's true, because sometimes it's your own family members, the people closest to you, who benefit from keeping you as small as possible. And until you realize that, until you stop adhering to that narrative, I mean, you're not going to be able to fulfill your dreams. You're not going to be able to live the life that you want to live for yourself. And that's why I think negging is so fucking dangerous, and why I think all the people who are telling you, oh, be humble, especially in your comments or on social media or in your life, you should really question their intentions, and you should fucking reject that notion. Especially as women. I'm sorry. As I am a woman. I'm speaking from my female experience. But as a woman, fuck that. Fuck that. On TikTok, when they were talking about Ocean Gate, there was a lot of videos of girls being like, well, you know who's not down there? Women. And I had to laugh. And I do think they came out and said that like Stockton's wife had actually gone on previous missions with him. Though I'm not sure if they actually saw the wreckage or not. That part's fucking confusing. If you know, comment below. But she's right. She's right. And I don't know if it's because they've made us so averse to risk taking, because we're constantly being advised to play it safe, play it humble, play it small. Maybe that's why we're in the goddamn submersible. No, I mean, this was an example of a time where that worked out for us. In business, you do have to take a risk. But please don't get it twisted. I'm obviously not saying don't listen to like the head of your safety department because your ego is so big. No. I think the fact that we've eaten so much humble pie already probably negates that experience from happening anyway. So I don't think we have to worry about that. Sit down, be humble is the worst fucking advice that someone can give you. And when they do give that to you, I hope that you take a step back and you really think about where that's coming from and why they're saying it to you and what they get out of you being humble. Because what the fuck do you get out of being humble? Not much. Nothing changes, right? You stay in the same spot that you're at. And maybe you don't want to sit in the same spot anymore. Maybe you want to grow. Maybe you want to move on. Maybe you want to go forward. And for God's sakes, you have every right to do so. So, go forth. This was episode 31. I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode. If you don't follow me yet, please follow me at Serious Actress across all social medias and subscribe to this podcast if you liked it. All right. Bye, guys.